right, all right, all right. This ain't just a show. This is a platform. Veteran built, battle tested. Welcome to the MisFitNation. Yeah! Mic in a room, built from boots on the ground, now we breaking the rules. 2 vets, 1 leader, painting the sound, turn scars into sermons, let them echo around. Authors with truth, musicians with fire, actors backstage chasing something higher. Entrepreneurs bleeding just to get ahead. If you fought for your dream, yeah, you are what you said. If they told you no, if you still came back, if you fell to your knees but you stayed on track, this is your voice, this is your flame. Say it loud, remember the name. No salvation, just elevation. We rise again. From the fight to the end. We are the Misfit Nation. No damn labels, no damn cages. If you're still breathing, you belong. Turn it up. This is our song. Yeah. This is our song. Yeah. Veterans standing with ghosts in the chest. First responders running in while the world second guess. Gold star names carved deep in the soul. Your story ain't over, we carry the whole. Coaches teaching mindset, breaking the chains, turning barely alive into owning the pain. Truth over polish, scars on display. If it's real, let it bleed. That's the misfit play. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. It's Seabee right now. We're the more than you know. Don't walk alone. Veterans press 1, bring it home. Don't trade forever for tonight. You're still needed in this fight. We are the Misfit Nation, built from scars and dedication. We rise again. From the fire, from the fight to the end. We are the Misfit Nation. Every voice is vindication. From the silence to the scream, we're strong. Welcome home, you belong.
Woo! All right. Welcome back to the MisFit Nation Sunday after dinner edition. A great day to be with you, and hopefully you guys had a great weekend as well. You didn't have to work as hard as maybe I did doing lawn work and such, but we all get to do what we get to do on a daily basis because we have those freedoms. And we usually bring guests on here that help secure those freedoms for you, and we'll keep doing that until we can't do it anymore. Tonight's no different. We have a great guest coming on, a brother of the show, and I've been excited to get him on. I've had one part of his team on the show. Martin Ty Cobb was on the show a while back. I have him coming on, and now I just got to get the final one to come on, the more risque one of the 3 to come on the show, and have him on later. But tonight, we have Matt Johnson, United States Navy veteran, retired senior chief petty officer who served more than 22 years in the Navy. He began his career as a Seabee, part of the Navy's construction battalions, known for their ability to build and operate in some of the most challenging environments anywhere in the world. Over the course of his career, he grew into leadership roles and eventually finished his time in uniform as a Navy recruiter, helping guide and mentor the next generation of sailors. But what makes Matt's story powerful is what he's doing now. Today, he's the owner of Got Your Six Culture, LLC, an apparel company built around community, culture, and supporting causes that matter. His business works with nonprofits to help raise funds and continues to serve the veteran community in meaningful ways. He's also a co-host of the Triple Threat Vets podcast, where veterans share real stories about life after service. He's someone who didn't just retire from the military. He found his next mission. So today, we're going to talk about leadership, transition, entrepreneurship, and what it means to keep serving even after the uniform comes off. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hope I didn't build your head up too much there and got you.
No, I'm just going to ask you to send that to me so I can use it the next time somebody asks me for a bio. Like, that's probably the best one ever.
That's from your 2 cents you just sent me. I made that for you.
Yeah, there you go. Well, 2 cents is all it takes sometimes, right?
That's all it takes. And I got this beautiful picture of you, like that picture behind you right now. So,
oh yeah.
I mean, I read a lot there, read a lot about your backstory there, but I'd like you to tell some of the stuff I left out, fill in the gaps for the Misfit Nation as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, first off, I want to say thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on the show. This is a show that I know me and my guys on our show, we follow what you guys do. You guys have been doing this for a long time, and we can only hope to get there. So thank you again for having me. Hello to everybody in the Misfit Nation. I mean, where you start always is, I was born and raised all over the world. Actually, I was one of those military brats. So for me, I was born in Texas, and through that, my dad was in the Air Force, stepfather was in the Army, so we moved around a lot. So my childhood was growing up everywhere. So every 3 years we're moving, every 3 years we're going to a new place. But I guess what you look back on that is it teaches you that resiliency, right? That we have, when you get into service. So you're always meeting new people. You're always learning new places, seeing new things, and you get to see a broad spectrum of stuff, right? A lot of times if you grew up in one place your entire life and you have those childhood friends you grew up with and the stories that you tell back home, most times that's all you know. Like, you don't see a lot of other stuff. And then when you go on vacations and you go different places, you get to see different things. But it is very unique to live in a whole bunch of different places. Sometimes I look back and wish, I had those childhood friends, the people that you could, talk to and always reach out to that you grew up with. But to be honest, from there, being that you grew up all over the world and then you having that military career, a lot of times you don't have one really good friend. Like, you have a whole network of people that you can reach out to, talk to, and rely on if you ever need them. And so it's almost like you've got that network anywhere you go. So if I'm anywhere, I probably can find someone to help me out whenever I get there, right? If you need some help. It was definitely interesting. Grew up in Germany, lived in Louisiana, lived in Texas. So growing up all over the place. Germany was really fun, even though I was super young. I remember a lot of those times. That growing up over there was cool. You get to see all the history and all the stuff that happened in Europe and the castles and all that. So growing up for me was moving all the time, like I said. So leading up to that, finally settled down back in Texas. So it all comes around full circle from where it starts, right? My dad was stationed over at Fort Hood in Killeen. And I remember playing sports all through high school. You have all those dreams. You're going to be a pro athlete. You're going to make $1 million. And then you figure out real quick that it's really hard to do that. So it's probably not going to happen. So for me, just trying to figure out what I was going to do, as you're going through that high school period. And my parents forever would tell me, the military is a great thing, right? Because our whole family had served in the military. It's a good thing to do. You can go out there and, it gives you a guaranteed job, and you get food and college, all those things, right? The same things I told people as a recruiter when I was getting out of the Navy, and I was like, okay. But I was the opposite of that. I was just like, hell no, I'm never doing it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go in. I don't want to have anything to do with it. My stepfather was in the Army, so he was on a linebacker. I'm sure you know what that is from way back in the day, or he's a tank guy. So he was always in the field. Anytime that we would have something to do, got to go to the field. Anytime you got to go somewhere. And I used to remember seeing that, like, man, he's never around. I don't want to do that, right? So I was against it all the way through, coming into high school, going through high school. I was like, never, 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 right? Not doing any of that. Then your senior year comes around, and that's where the reality hits. You're not going to be this pro athlete. Nobody really cares about soccer in the state of Texas because you don't live in, Europe, right? It's not super huge. I didn't go to camps. I didn't play on travel teams. Didn't even really know that kind of stuff existed based off of being in Texas, right? Texas is a football state. It's too small to play that. So I played soccer, and then I realized, like, that's not coming around. And I knew I definitely didn't want to stay around home, right? I didn't want to be at home. I didn't want to stay at home. I didn't want to have to be that guy that's graduated being at home, right? So I made the decision to go join the military. And so I set out on that journey. I let the Air Force recruiters stand me up 3 times on an interview because they just were never there, hanging out, doing what they do. They probably had some kind of fishing trip or something. I don't know. And I knew I didn't want to be a Marine because I didn't have that personality. And, you see what those guys are. I was like, I don't want to do that. And really the reason I didn't go in the Army is my picture of the Army is only what I saw, right? So I was like, I don't want to do that either. And so the 3rd time I went to the recruiting station, Air Force recruiter, wasn't there again. And so I walked in the Navy office, I have family history of the Navy. Both of my grandfathers served. My uncle was in the Navy. So we have all services that are represented, but my dad's dad, my grandfather, I looked up to him a lot. He retired as a Master Chief. My mom's brother, one of my uncles, retired as a Master Chief as well. So knowing them and seeing what they did in the Navy, and again, I was on the way outside of that, right? So I was like, that's cool. I'll go do that. So I decided to go join the Navy.
Nice. And why Seabee?
Okay, another good story. So I go to join the Navy, right? Do the physical. You go do everything you have to do at MEPS. As soon as I get to sit down with the job counselor, after everything goes through, you sit down and they're like, what do you want to do in the Navy? Swear to God, Rich, I said, all right, I'll do anything the Navy wants me to do as long as it doesn't go on a ship. And the job counselor was like, you do know you're joining the Navy, right? I'm like, yeah, totally. I totally know that, right? So I found out real quick it's ships right in the Navy, which I kind of knew. And so when they gave me all the jobs, right, back then, you remember you used to get those cards, and the cards show you all the stuff you get to do. Well, the Navy cards would give you a rotation. Like if you did a 20-year career, it'd be this percentage on land, this percentage on sea, kind of, I guess, seashore rotation, right? Yeah. So I was like, all right. So I was looking through the cards, and then I came to EO, equipment operator, and it was like 75% land, 25% sea, for a 20-year career. And I was like, I might only have to go out there 25% of a career. I was like, sold, I'll take it. So I took Seabees, EO, not knowing what Seabees were. I had no idea it did construction. Honestly, I got exactly what I told the job dude I wanted anyway, right? Any job in the Navy that doesn't go on a ship all the time. And so there you go. That is the reason I picked Seabees. No family history, nothing. I picked it because of the seashore rotation. That's it.
Wow. That's awesome. At least you had a motivation to do that. And
yeah. And I don't know, maybe the job counselor dude was laughing when that's the one I settled on. Maybe he was just like, this dude just got exactly what he wanted. But, I remember they showed me machinist mate, and they showed me engine man, all those shipboard jobs that are down on the bottom of the ship getting oily and dirty that I know about now. I'm also, I didn't take those. But there's times when you look back on a Navy career that, sometimes you wish you would have gone on a ship and gone on deployments because it is the Navy, but, I wouldn't trade anything. No, some people would maybe trade for some of the work that they did, but, my career, just like all of ours, if I wouldn't have made the choices I did, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, especially with family and stuff like that, right? Because if I was on a boat, I'd never would have met my wife because I'd have never been able to be in an area where I would have had the opportunity to meet her. So everything happens for a reason. You get pointed in that path, and thank goodness for 75% land and 25% sea. So
outstanding. You're right. Every decision we made as when we were young men, many moons ago, it led to where we are today. And the things you're doing now would not be happening. You'd be some totally different dude if you were a seagoing sailor.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever came back to the States, you might have stayed in the Philippines or Japan or wherever your ship made most ports, because that's what a lot of those sailors do. But you wound up staying right where you are now with your roots down, and you set some roots there in Houston.
Oh yeah. Well, it's just funny, because in a career and in a lifetime, like I said, I grew up moving every 3 years. We lived in California and South Carolina and Louisiana, and we lived in Germany for 5 years. And so all that stuff was cool. But born in Texas, graduated high school in Texas, joined in Texas, made chief in Texas, and then retired. So Texas is like that thing that everything important in those matters happened. And then Louisiana is the other state that's like super close to me because that's where I got married. That's where my kids are born. So really the two states next door to each other, the two that just, seem to be the ones that mean the most, because we lived in Fort Polk for a little bit too, right before we moved to Texas. So it's those two states, they're the meaningful pieces of it. But yeah, we laid some roots down here in Houston, but not until we got back over here, because living all over, it's not like, you have a hometown to go to, but for me getting out, for us, I don't know about most other people, is drilling off kids, right? My son loved the school he was in. He liked where he's at. He wanted to be an Aggie, so he stayed here. He's an Aggie today, so that worked out.
He's not one of those Aggies that do that dancing stuff, does he?
Nah, he's not a yell leader, but he did get his ring on Friday, so my son is officially in the cult that you guys call it. But he's probably pretty secure in getting jobs in the future if he just walks in and he's got that ring on and somebody else is wearing one. They're like the most networked and close-knit community I've ever seen, man. Those guys, they stick together. But I don't know how often or if you've ever been to A&M. If you go to that campus, you feel like you're at a service academy kind of when you go on there and see some of the stuff they're doing with Corps cadets and how it's laid out. And when you walk up to their building where their student alumni center is, it has all the core values of A&M on long stanchioned walls that you can read each core value and the meaning of it and why they do it. And that campus is, it's a well-oiled machine, man, even down to how they work the freaking traffic lights on the main drag.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a very unique place to go. Like if you get there, there's a university is the main street there at A&M where it goes down through to get to campus on one side. And there's a lot of student living and the bar area and Northgate and all on the other side. So as you're going down that street, all the lights on that street turn red kind of at the same time. But there's one major intersection. All four lights turn red, and it is a migration across the road. Crosswalks don't matter in that intersection once it turns red because no cars are going. Everybody just crosses, especially during the days when school's in. Like there's massive amounts of people going through. So they got it down pretty good. But yeah, it's a cool place to go for sure.
Yeah, I've never been to A&M's campus. I've just seen because football. Everyone, they love watching the football. They love, like you said, Texas is football. But Texas A&M versus Texas when they had the barn fires and things like that. You've seen all the videos from ESPN, and you see the Corps cadets. And I always wondered, are they? How many of them actually get commissioned? And I researched that, and I think it was almost 45% of them actually get commissioned, and that's a pretty high rate for any school. The only ones higher, I think, are the academies that have a higher commission rate, and 45% is a huge number to have commissioned into our services.
Well, yeah, and they're unique at A&M because they're not a service academy, right? So you're not going to the Naval Academy or West Point or the Air Force Academy, right, where you're going into a service. At West Point, if you're in, or not West Point, but at A&M and the Corps Cadets, they have a choice in service they want to go to, so like they'll go talk to recruiters and join in those services, but there's definitely a track for you to be able to get into the service through the Corps Cadets. And I mean, A&M is another unique place that their band is the Corps Cadets, is the band. Like they don't have like a band that you can get a scholarship and go play like you would see it, other schools. I'm an SEC area guy, just like you are, Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, all these schools have those bands that are playing in the middle of the field. When you go to an A&M game at halftime, you're watching the Corps Cadets basically do drill practice as the band, and they're playing, during the halftime. It's pretty cool to see.
And doing the push-ups at every touchdown and such like that as well.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy atmosphere for college football to watch them and watch them as they have grown since from way back. Because my wife went to Kansas State, so they were part of the Big 12. And got to see them there in Texas, of course, as well. And then, as they became the enemy going into the SEC, and they hated because everyone left the Big 12 to go there. But watching even when Johnny Manziel went there, Johnny Football, and he went there, and he came in there with a different swagger than most of the people you've seen at Texas A&M because he was a little psychopathic, but he still is. And football was the only thing he knew, and he just wanted to play football. He wasn't there for school; he just wanted to play football. Then he was done, But football was his thing, and that brought the real big shiny light onto Texas A&M, and for years to come. And even I think the two quarterbacks after him were really good as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're a school of tradition. I mean, there's a lot of guys that went to A&M that are in the NFL now that'll go back there all the time. A couple that are the notable ones that I, off the top of my head, that are just they're still, I guess you'd say, kind of relevant. Mike Evans with the Bucks went there, and he was Manziel's target in college. And then you had Myles Garrett up in Cleveland was a defensive end at A&M. He went there, but I mean they churn him out, dude. And it's just, you live in that country. SEC football is a different animal. I don't care what stadium you go to, and I don't care how good your team is. SEC football is almost like going to watch soccer in the UK. Like the stadiums are packed and people just love their teams and they go out there to support. And I mean, when we go, I'm not paying a lot of money for a ticket, but A&M does a good job of like tailgating outside the stadium. So you can set up tailgating out there. You'll go out and tailgate, and you're watching the game, and you'll hear a whole bunch of booing and cursing. You know, you got to watch the TV, see what bad happened, and when they're cheering, you get to see what good is happening. And so you've got like a mix out there, but it's a great atmosphere, man. It's growing up in Texas. I liked UT growing up because I was in Texas. Texas is the thing. But after joining the military and coming back here and seeing it, A&M probably would have been the school that spoke to me the most from the growing up and the background you have, so, but it's cool.
And then just the history behind the school, the agricultural and farmland stuff, the way they actually evolved over the century that they've been there, and the things they've done to maintain relevancy as a university, and then still compete with these other schools. But like you've been saying, the SEC, you have the grandfather schools of the SEC, and then the schools, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, that kind of infiltrated, and Missouri. We kind of leave Missouri out a little bit, but those three came in with programs that can evolve and play SEC style, and they put the hurt on them. Any given
for sure,
one can win in the SEC.
And Texas A&M was the stepchild of that, man. They had to get their lumps just like Missouri did, and it's like they cleared the path. And Oklahoma and Texas didn't come in until they were kind of super relevant, right, and really good. So they walked in the door, but they even have their struggles in a way, But it's going to be interesting, man. I can't wait to see the UT A&M game again this year in Kyle Field in College Station, where they got the big Longhorn roasting on the grounds, and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's a good time, dude.
So it's good.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's good stuff.
All right, we'll move off of college football and get back to you a little bit here.
Sure.
What was your favorite thing you did as a Seabee before you transitioned over to the recruiting side?
Yeah, it's a good question. Going into the Seabees, again, like I said, I joined the Navy and had no idea what a Seabee was, what they did, any of that, and joining the Navy and becoming a Seabee and getting into those units and having to watch the fighting Seabees with John Wayne, that's a requirement to be a Seabee, and learning the history that they had in World War II and then going into Vietnam and all the things that they do, the we build, we fight, can do attitude was just it was amazing. You're in a battalion in the Seabees, and you've got a Marine Corps gunnery sergeant with you, got an Air Force captain with you. We got to be ready to mobilize. We have to be ready to fight. We have to be ready to do all these things. And you have such a network of people in these battalions. I think the coolest thing is, I go to A school at Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, and had to ride those cattle trucks every day to go out to the A school. But when I got there, one of our the first phase is driving the tractor trailers, that was pretty cool. But I remember when we went to do, I don't know if you know what a scraper is. Those are the ones that you see, they got really big wheels and bulldozers are pushing to put dirt into the belly of it, right? Those things were so massive, and you go out and you're looking at that as an 18-year-old kid, and you're like, you want me to drive that thing, right? Like you just have no idea. And then once you start to do it, you get qualified and all that stuff. And then when you get to your battalions and you start, the fondest memories, is learning how to do field exercises and set up camps and do all this, bringing stuff in and taking it out, practicing for those moments that you need to do it. The other thing that I think is memorable for me in the Seabees is the stuff we built. We built runways, and we built firehouse extensions for people on bases. We built steel engineered buildings. It wasn't always building for war, the thing that was memorable and that sticks out to me is we did a lot of community projects, and a lot of projects that were for the community, like where I was in Gulfport, building, paving parking lots and doing roads. And when we were overseas, building, barracks and stuff like that, like we were building things that people needed. We were rehabbing those things. So we were doing all the construction that you see every day in your local community, but we were doing that in the Navy, and then still, being ready to go fight. Right. So it wasn't always for us, for me anyway. Sometimes it felt like I was working a regular job, right? I was learning how to be a person in construction, running this heavy equipment. And secondary, we went and, we fought if we had to, or we had to be ready to do that. So things like that, man, just all the stuff we would build and moving the dirt and learning how to do those things and round robin of equipment, running a loader one day, a road grader the next day, driving dump trucks, pretty much whatever they needed. Right. And it was just the constant skill set of learning, just like all military, had to do everything. So the thing for me is, and it's carried on to today with me, even though I was only in the Seabees for about 6 years of my career, I don't call a handyman anymore. I don't need someone to come to the house and help me fix something that's broken. I have that foundation of how things work, right? So all that cross training that we did there, it helps you to be ready to do stuff like that, right? Probably could have come out of the Navy and been like a project manager or something like that. But, our deployments were the worst. We went to the Bahamas, we went to Puerto Rico, it was so hard, dude. It was so hard.
Gotta get a
But,
sign.
yeah, but it was just those times, and the memorable stuff for me too is us going on deployments, and ships would pull in that were also on their deployment cycles, and we didn't have curfews. I didn't understand that people in the Navy had curfews, right? Like, if you're E5 and below or E4 and below, you got to be back to the ship at a certain time. And here I am, like an E3, E4, and I can stay out to like 6 o'clock in the morning if I wanted to, because I'm going to walk over there to my room that I'm staying at for the whole deployment. And so seeing the differences in that it was really ironic, seeing how mad people would get because we didn't do stuff on the boats. But yeah, just that, like learning how to do construction and picking up a skill set that definitely helps you for life is one of those things that's memorable. Funny story. I think my craziest story of my time in the Seabees is we were in Chenhae, Korea, and we were doing work on like the docks where the ships would pull in. And so we had like a side project, community project or whatever, building mooring line storage, right? Well, we all remember that if you didn't get your teeth cleaned, then you might as well have committed a mortal sin because you're not deployable, right? Because you have dirty teeth, okay?
Sinner.
But the dentist on our base was in Seoul, Korea. So not even there. But I was like almost super red on the hit list. So I had to go to the dentist. Well, lucky me, the Blue Ridge pulled in to Chenhae. And so when the Blue Ridge pulled in, they're like, you'll just go to the dentist on the Blue Ridge and get your cleaning and you'll be good to go. And I was like, cool. So everybody don't judge me when I tell you this story, but I think it's hilarious as shit now that I look back on it. So when you go to boot camp in the Navy, you learn to request permission to come aboard, right? You salute the ensign, then you salute the quarterdeck, and then you show your ID, you request permission to board. Did it every day in boot camp for 8 weeks. Well, as soon as you get into the Seabees, all that shipboard stuff, it goes away. It is gone. We don't even do that, right? I didn't wear dungarees in the Navy. I wore camis. I was a Marine with a light duty chit. That's what they called us, okay? So I walked up the gangplank of the ship. So I'm walking up to the Blue Ridge, got my dentist appointment, right? And I tried to walk on this ship like I was driving through the gate at base, dude. I just basically showed this dude my ID and went to walk on, and I got this stiff arm that stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, what the hell, man? I was like showing him my ID, like showing it to him, and he kept like stopping me from coming on, and I was just like, what's going on? And he finally like looked to the aft part of the ship where the ensign is, right? And then I kind of looked back, and it just hit me. I was like, oh shit, right? So then I was like, oh. So I requested permission to come aboard, sent ID, and he was like, what is wrong with you? I was like, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. The last time I tried to do what I just did, or attempted that was in boot camp, dude. Like we don't do that. Like for us, we might as well have been, super secret mission people to the ship guys, because he was like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "I swear, dude." Because I was telling him, like, why would I dress up like this in Korea to try to get on the ship, right? Like, I'm not, a bad guy or whatever. So I finally got on. I was, it was a big, hilarious story that everybody told all through that day, because every time I'd walk around, I could tell people were like looking at me, kind of laughing, like, "Oh, there's the guy," because I just came out, right? So they take me to the dental clinic. So you have to go down the ladder wells into where the clinic is on the ship. I get my teeth cleaned, and they're like, "Cool, see you later. That's great." I walk out of the dental clinic, and everything looks the same. I was like, "Oh no." And so again, we wore woodland camis, like the old school woodland camis, right? And so Seabees had the Seabee embroidered on our patch. But if you weren't paying attention, you could take that as a Master at Arms badge, like an MP, right? So I'm walking around, all these people are seeing me walk around, and they're like telling me welcome aboard, like I was the new MA, right? Dude, I stopped a couple people. I said, "I need y'all to help me get off the ship right now." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I am not a Master at Arms. I'm just a Seabee. I swear to God, if those engines turn on and I hear something start moving, we're running a man overboard drill for real," right? Because I just was so discombobulated. This thing, number one, when you walk up, it's massive, right? Then you get in there and it's such a maze and it's so confusing. And here I am, a guy that never, ever been on one, and get off. And so then we're in the bar that night. All these guys are in the bar and they're all laughing at us and telling all my buddies, like, "That fucking guy right there," they're talking shit. And then 10 o'clock comes and it's time for them to go home for curfew. So then I started laughing at them, going, "Don't forget, you have to request permission to come aboard when you get on the ship," right? But it was that story to me, like I actually took that with me actually a lot through the Navy after, to remember, like, I was in the Navy, right? So in the Navy, there's those customs and courtesies that you have to remember. And so even through my recruiting days and all that, like, that's just general military training, right? Military bearing, all those things. And as I looked back on it, being a young E4, I was like, this guy's an asshole. Fuck those ships, right? Like, I don't care about none of that. But then as I got older and you start to make rank in those leadership roles, I was like, man, I was a complete dick for doing that and not remembering that that's what you're supposed to do. So I, when you move up, you make it a point to learn that military bearing and that heritage and history and knowing what that is. And so that you teach your sailors, that there's different communities, they do different things, and you have to be mindful of where it's at. Like, right, if we go to an Army base, remember a captain is a captain, right? Not a lieutenant. You know what I mean? Because like in the Navy, like, we're weird. All of our ranks are different. Everybody else, for the most part, is kind of the same. So when they're saying someone's a captain, if you weren't with it and pretty new in the Navy, you'd be like, "Oh, that's just a lieutenant. That's just a 03, right?" And then you're like, "Oh no, it's not, right? It's not. It's like, our version of a captain is your version of a lieutenant, right?" So you're like, a captain, you think they're higher ranking, and when you're going through all that, it's so confusing, and you're just like, "Oh my God, the guy's a captain," and it's like, no, he's not. What? It just having to learn that. And so that experience was like, you got to make sure that you know this shit, because if you don't, and especially when you get into those leadership roles in the military and you walk in the door, heaven forbid you're a chief, right? Senior NCO that goes into any situation and you look like an asshole because you don't know, like, the common courtesies or what you're supposed to do and things like that, right? You should prepare yourself to do it. You need to be professional at all times. And, when I looked back on that, I was like, oh man, I really messed that up. I still tell the story because I think it's funny, but it was a big learning experience for me to dial in and be like, you need to remember the stuff about the service, especially the one you're in, dude, right? If you get an Army or Air Force or something wrong, like, that's understandable. But like, you're in the Navy and you just tried to walk up on that boat like you owned it, like it's no big deal, going through the front gate, there's my pass, So it was crazy.
Yeah, you mentioned Gulfport. My niece is actually in Gulfport. She's a metal worker with the construction battalion there at the Navy.
Nice.
She's been on, I don't think she's been on ship much, but she's been in Eastern Europe, Israel, and then back to Gulfport. So she's been around the world with her tour so far. And she just reenlisted, I think, last year, or the year prior. I think she probably has a year left on this tour before she makes another decision. But she's doing great things. That's a long way.
So she's a steel worker then.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Welding. I've done that before, hungover. That shit sucks. Yeah.
I've done it
because it's already hot, you know, in wherever you're doing construction because it's outside. Then when you add a hangover and grinding rebar to go with it, you're like, Jesus, dude.
What did I do? Now, we got a question from the audience here.
Yeah.
This is from @SugarHoneyIced. It's an acronym there. What leadership lesson from your time as a Seabee still shapes the way you operate today? Thank you, Sugar Honey Iced Tea.
Yeah. Oh, Sugar Honey Iced Tea. That I bet you that. So I'm guessing your favorite movie's Madagascar. Just saying. But I think the biggest leadership lesson for me is after going in to the story I just told about getting that wrong, and then kind of dialing in. One of the biggest lessons for me that I carry on is that that military bearing, right? Like in the Seabees, I joked we're Marines with light duty chits, but for us, uniform was important. You had to look right when you got to quarters. Your uniform had to be pressed. It had to be ironed. You had to look professional. Like, yeah, we do construction and we get dirty and muddy, but if you've got to go see, you know, the top echelon of the chain of command, or you have to go into the headquarters building or somewhere, you're taking off all that crap that you get dirty and you're going to look presentable when you walk in the door. There's no excuse to not be presentable. I think that's the biggest from being a CB that I took going through my career and even now, right? Like I love to wear shorts and a t-shirt and I love to just be lazy. But if I have to go meet and talk to someone, then I need to dress appropriately for the situation. So learning where you're going to go and what you're doing. I think that's one of the things, even as a leader, that we had to really hone in on, because your sailors, you know, those young sailors are going to try to get away with that, right? They're going to try to wear the dirty boots in there one day. And if they make it through that first time and their LPO or their chief doesn't say anything, well, now that becomes something they can do, because they're going to go tell everybody else when they've got to go in, oh, you don't got to change nothing. They ain't going to say nothing. So it was one of those things of always being presentable, having that military bearing, because we did have a lot of Marine Corps standards to what we did. We weren't Marines, but the gunnery sergeants in our battalions, like when we did uniform inspection, oh my gosh, dude, like mop and glow. Remember the mop and glow trick for the boots, and you know, spit shining boots. Like you had a pair of boots to wear at quarters, at muster, and then you had your boots you worked in, right? And so you always kept that pair in the car, and it was just remembering to be presentable and be professional at all times. Like that's one of the things that I started to realize there once I moved up, and you started to become like you had sailors under your charge and you had to lead people, you know, that it stuck with me, and it helped me in recruiting duty. It helped me going through is just that military bearing and that structure piece is just what stuck with me.
Yeah, and you mentioned shining boots. Now, as with my day job now, I haven't seen a shined boot since I got out, or even before then. So 10 years now, 10 years out, plus probably 9 years before that is when boots left the Army, really, where you had to shine them. So that's a lost art in the Army. I mean, they had the brown dress boots they wear now with the new
that is a good point.
And shining boots really has gone out the window. So that's a discipline that really just got thrown away. And when you had to wash and wear uniforms, people forgot to press them, and you stopped wearing the starched uniforms or looking good. Now you just roll out of bed and go to work. It's discipline kind of went down for all. It's come back a lot over the last year and a half, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange.
That's a good point, Rich. I didn't even think about that. They probably don't shine boots anymore. They're not wearing jungle boots anymore. You're not wearing like leather boots, you know, like we even shined Matterhorn boots, even though they were cold weather boots. Like they got to look good, dude. Right. It was just one of those things. But then even after that, when you go to those they always would try to say, this is a working uniform. It's not like a dress uniform. So that was an excuse not to iron it. And you're like, bro, come on.
Yeah, I had sergeant majors that people would say, oh, this is my field uniform. And like, there's no such thing as a field uniform. All uniforms, uniforms. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and it was true though, right? Like you are going to wash that uniform and it is going to get dirty and it's going to get grease on it and it's going to get cement on it. Like in our case in the bees, cement, gear grease, you're greasing, the grease points on the equipment and you're cleaning out dozer tracks and you're getting nasty every day, oil everywhere if you're a mechanic, but there's no excuse to not look presentable when you leave that shop or you leave that work area. If you're in transit, that's the other thing. But when you're out in the eye, that was the thing that stuck with me. If someone can see you that doesn't work with you, you have to be presentable because you are it just maybe that's not anymore, but that's from being in the bees and from my time in and what I used to try to portray to people, especially being a military recruiter. We are the face of the Navy. So what people think of the Navy is what they see when they see you. And if you look like Joe Shit the Ragman, which is what they called, that was the term, and you don't care about how you look, then everybody's going to think that that's the way it works now, right? Like, oh, look at these guys, they just don't care anymore. And then you're going to see all these old timers that are like back in, all the back in my day shit, but you've given them the reason to do that if you don't go out presentable. You know what I mean? It was one of those things, and that's why it just stuck. And especially going into recruiting duty, and you have to go into high schools and you've got to go to colleges and you go to community events and you're around city offices and you're around, just the community as a whole. You got to sit in the living room of a young man or a young woman and talk to their parents about joining the military. And if then none of them have ever served in the military, you walking in the door is going to make or break whether that young lady or young man's family is going to accept them going to do it. Is this somebody that walks in the door that if they don't look like they give a shit about themselves, then they're definitely not going to take care of my son or daughter in the manner they need to? But if you walk in professional, courteous, squared away, and even in that living room with great military bearing, you show a professionalism that they can see they want for their kids, right? And that was in a lot of cases the difference. And especially with prior service parents, they're judging you the moment you walk in the door, right? Yes. They're looking at your ribbon rack. They're making sure it's in the right order. You know what I mean? Like all of that stuff. And so, it was just that thing. And that all that Seabee stuff, like I'm sure with you younger in the Army too, Rich, we're up on Sunday nights, ironing the uniforms for the week, bullshitting in the barracks, shining our boots, making sure everything is squared away, rolling our sleeves, making sure everything is good so that we can just put it on and be ready for the week. That there was a routine to that. And again, it's just another thing that I carry now, like the whole routine. Like if I got these events for the week, then you're kind of putting stuff to the side. I know I'm going to be wearing this at these points during the week, so let's put them to where they're together in the closet. I can grab them, just little things like that. How I fold my freaking clothes when I pack them in a suitcase is still like I'm going to stow them underneath the rack on the ship, right? It just fits in there better. There's more room. Right. Just all those habits, man, it just helps you stay, tight in there, I guess you would say.
Definitely. And I remember our Sundays was GI party in the barracks, make sure everything's spick and span. So when first sergeant comes in the morning, it looks good. Uniforms all pressed, boots shined. And then everyone had to have a haircut. So if you had money, you went and got your haircut, or you trusted the barracks barber. And you had that. Well,
and if you didn't give a shit about your haircut, all he needed to do was we're done. As long as it's all one length, we're good, dude.
Just make it pretty. Just make it get through. And that's it.
Yeah.
But that
was the best anyway. What was a haircut on base was always like $10 less than it was off base. Yeah. And people would be like, I'm not going to the barber on base. I'm like, you can say that if you want to, bro, but I'm going to them. That's the cheapest haircut ever. Because nowadays, dude, you're paying $40 and I don't have much hair and I'm still paying $40 for a haircut,
It's $20 on base now. So
way better. Way better. I'm cool with it. And they tell better stories anyway, right? They always had great stories to tell.
The ones that talk to you,
yeah.
Some that don't speak, they accept, like, what do you want? What do you want me to do? Okay, that's it
for sure.
But it's still, I still go on base and get it because it's the cheaper version, and it's what I've been doing for the last 30 years of my life. So it's habit.
And
I've tried.
if I was by a base, I'd probably do the same. And I think I would, because you get the opportunity to be around those young soldiers and sailors and Marines, or wherever you're stationed at, or wherever you live. You see that next generation of those young people in there. And, you know, if I ever go to get a new ID card, or if I go to get a haircut and I'm ever around a base, if I'm in a waiting room with people, I like to just talk to them and ask them, what do you do in the Army? What's your job? You know, giving those young people the opportunity to brag about what they do in the military and tell the story of what they're doing, and just appreciating their excitement and motivation for what they do goes a long way. And it's like an you know, it's just like being in the civilian world and being in business, the opportunity to just listen to somebody and make them feel like you care about what they're saying, when you truly do, because you're just trying to network and get to know people, goes a long way. You don't always have to go for the jugular, as they say, right? You don't need to sell it today. Sometimes you're not going to sell it for 6 months or whatever, but it's all about building that relationship. You know, people do business with people they trust. And when you see these young kids and they get to tell you all about what they do, and you're excited about hearing it, because I always am, because I'm not in anymore. I don't know what all this shit is, right? So I do like to hear what they're doing and how it works, and just showing them you appreciate them telling you that. It gives them a good picture of veterans out there, that they do care about the younger generation, what they're doing. We're not just on Facebook going, we're screwed when these guys are going to do it. You know what I mean? They can share what they're doing, and it's pretty good. And I'm not going to lie, I've been to bases where I've walked up to soldiers and I've been like, listen, I just have a question. I don't type on Facebook every day, but is it a thing now where you don't wear a cover from your car to the building? Like, you don't need to do that no more, right? Like, that's not allowed? Or are you afraid that your hair is going to get messed up? Like, what are we doing? Like, covers are, you know. And so I ask these questions, and a lot of times they get pissy with you, but then you find out, like, no, we do wear them. I'm like, but you're not? Like, dude, come on, wear the hat. You know what I mean?
It's
like
hard. Not hard.
Yeah, but it's also funny, because in being on these bases, you'll see their first class, or their LPO, right? Their E6 in the Navy is a first class, or you'll see their sergeant or their staff sergeant that's with them is also out there with no fucking hat and no, you know what I mean? You're like, okay, well, there you go. Well, I know why it's acceptable now, because the guy that you're supposed to look to do the right thing is the guy that's not doing the right thing. And again, I always ask, because I don't want to assume that that's the way it is anymore. But then you find out, like, okay, so covers are still a thing. Got it. It's
Definitely,
you know.
still, yes. And me, I get to see him every day at work, so I've seen him evolve since my time getting out. And when I go to the barber, I sit and listen to their complaints when they're talking to each other. Like, the complaints have not changed; they're still the same complaints. It's just different dudes and dudettes saying it. And sometimes when I'm pitching a class in front of them, I'm looking out there and I see me and my buddies sitting in front of me, because it's the same people, just different names now. It's the same people, just keep coming through, the same type of people come in the military. And so I just laugh inside, man, it'll never change. Even no matter what technology brings to the table, no matter what I've changed, they've changed, it's always the same mindset and the same stupid jokes and things they do in class and things they complain about. It just keeps me young, I guess, watching them do it.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. But they said that about us, right? Yeah. When we were young in the military coming up, all the older generation that was there, those guys were going, we are so screwed when these guys are in charge. Like, everything's going to crumble. So I still tell a lot of people, remember, they said the same thing about us when we were coming up, right? Like, we're going to be the ones that ruin everything for everyone. And it all turned to be out okay. And it still is the military. So there is an order and discipline in there. It might be different than what we're used to, but it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to figure it out. And so it works out pretty good. But it was the same when we would go to schools, you know, like I went to recruiting duty in 2001, like right after 9/11, you know? So 9/11, I was in Andros Island in the Bahamas. We were doing work at Autech, which is a big, I still might be, I don't know if it is or not, but this is, you know, years ago, but it was an underwater testing site for like submarines and stuff like that. So they built a lot of stuff there. They had a lot of people that would come through. So we were there on a deployment building basically dignitary quarters, right? Rooms that the bigwigs would stay in when they would come down. not your average Navy lodge room, basically. And I remember 9/11, you know, they had civilians that worked on that base, and they had civilian security force on that base. And one of the guys that was civilian security force was an Army. He was in the Army before, and he ran in there, and he was a jokester. And, you know, we were trying to change a dump truck tire, I think, at the time. And he ran in talking about a plane hit the tower. And we were like, get out of here, dude. Like, stop. Like, we don't have time for this shit today, right? Like, we got to change this dump truck tire. We're probably not feeling very good and have headaches from the day before. You know what I mean? But the moment that he just stood up and said, all you guys need to shut the F up and listen right now, I'm fucking telling you this. I'm not joking. And when we looked at him and you saw his face, you're like, oh shit. And then right at that moment, our lieutenant, our LT came in, our OIC, and he's like, everybody get in the room. And then we just walked in from there and saw the TV and saw everything going on. And so we were on a deployment at that point. So it was like, are we going to go right now? Or what are we going to do? We guarded the base like a champ though, dude. We're driving the trucks around. It was full stop, nobody in or out. And I mean, Andros Island in the Bahamas is like the largest island of the Bahamas, but ain't nothing there. But because of what they did there, it was a big deal, right? So we're riding in the vehicles with shotguns on watch 24 hours a day. And that was the priority on top of still doing the construction work, right? And so I was up for orders. And the only reason I got the transfer is because I was going recruiting duty.
Wow.
And because right when 9/11 hits, right, we need people to join. So that's kind of what saved me there is I was going to a critical fill shore duty, basically.
Wow. Yes. I was deployed too, but not in the Bahamas at that time. I was on the.
No, you know, it was a rough deployment, Rich. It was rough, dude.
Mine was a little different. It was Sandy, but it was on the border of Iraq in Kuwait, so a little different. And when we got the word,
kidding?
No, that's where I was when 9/11 happened, and it was a lot different for us. But I also had like almost a similar story. My lieutenant was a joker, and he said it. And I grew up with my backyard facing the World Trade Center. So I was like, sir, stop messing around. Stop messing around. I was cursing at him, and my young sergeant, one of my team leaders, said, Sergeant, I'm going to go check out the CNN tent. I said, go ahead, man. He came back and said, Sergeant, shut up. It's real. It's real. I was like, shit.
Oh, my gosh.
That cut off our ice cream supply. We had to guard the base. They gave us ammo, and then we were basically the tip of the spear at that point.
For sure. I mean, you guys were truly the tip of the spear where you were at because that's where it was all going to flow through anyway.
So it was wild and a real change of pace. And for you going back and now you're going into schools at this point. Hey, our country just got attacked. You want to join the Navy? How was that sale?
Yeah. So you know, 9/11 was a point in the country that, you know, you hear a lot of talk about it today. And I think a lot of veterans or people that were around the veteran community back then there's a lot of these young kids today. I mean, they don't know 9/11. We're at a point now where people have no idea what that was. They weren't alive then, you know. But when 9/11 happened, it was a point where everybody banded together. So in recruiting was a little different. You had a lot of older people, older men and women were like, I want to go serve my country, right? So you did have people coming in the door that wanted to serve. But it was a little challenging too, because as soon as this happens, you're in a recruiting duty, and I'm brand new to recruiting when I get in. You know, you're going through recruiting school. 9/11 just happened. Like we're at this point, I went to recruiting duty in November of 2001. So what are we about to do? How's it going to be? What's going to happen? Where are we going? And you're in the school, and I would imagine I never went to recruiting school before 9/11 when everything was fun and happy, right? Not in a wartime. And the whole talk was like, you guys are going to have to go out and find people to serve their country. And the biggest impact to that was you're going to go talk to people to serve their country. They're going to put their lives on the line to serve their country. And you're still going to be back here. You need to be mindful of that. When you go out and talk to people, like they really push that. So once we got out and we're going to schools, you know, older people wanted to join because they wanted to come in, but then you had a huge sector of the population. We would go into a high school and talk to these young 17, 18-year-old kids that were about to graduate and what are they going to do next, talking to their parents, and their parents like, my kid's not going to war. And if you're and just imagine the age group of kids in 2001 that we would have been talking to join the military, either their parent or their grandparent was still at a young enough age where they talked to them all the time that were from that Vietnam era, right? So that's where a lot of that, if they had that military background, sometimes it would come through and go, they're not doing that. Calling people's houses, my kid's not going to go kill babies. And you're just like, what? And again, I didn't put that together 2 and 2, right? Like when I would hear they're not going to go like do all that, I was like, what? Why do people keep saying that? And then we would have to get educated. You know, our training wasn't just on like, this is what an ASVAB is, and this is the benefits the military has that you need to make sure people understand. It was just all about understanding the population and a little bit what they were feeling and going through as that time was there. But it was a good time for recruiting, you know, like you weren't having to, there was no struggle to find people. The biggest hurdle was, did they have a police record? Did they like to smoke weed? And
how good were they at?
Could they pass the ASVAB? Right. So it's like, so a lot of times that's what would come into play. But we had no shortage of people that wanted to do it. And I mean, yeah, that was just an eye-opening part for me going into recruiting duty after 9/11. Because right when I get there, all the recruiters that I worked with were like, we were in a high school doing a presentation. I'm old. They had those Motorola flip phones that you could chirp on back in the day. So like they were getting chirped in the middle of a classroom presentation. And, you know, at the time it was like the only important thing is what you're doing. And then they're being pulled from the school. They're being sent home. And like, they were like, it was crazy. But they're still wanting you to call people and set appointments and get your numbers, but you needed to go home because you're wearing a uniform. We don't know what's going to happen. You can only wear your uniform and this is the part, as I look back on it, you can only wear your uniform while you're in working hours at the office. Like, okay, but I got to go to the high school, and then I've got to go to the police station, and then I've got to go take people to MEPS, right? Like, oh, you can do that in a government vehicle, but I can't wear my uniform when I'm driving my car home. Okay, I get it. I mean, understandable, right? But all those things they put in place, and now you realize maybe they didn't want you to wear a uniform when you were driving your car into work every day because you're leaving your house in the uniform. Somebody knows where you live now and that you're a military member. And so then as you start to go through that, you understand the OPSEC of why they did it. You're like, okay, now that makes sense. But they never tell you that, right? Remember, they were just like, don't do it. You're like, why? Because we said so. You know, so sometimes we didn't do a good job of, this is what you have to do, and here is the reason why. Like, oh, that makes sense, 100%.
That's the hard part.
And even though they were all told that in the briefing, they just, you know, it wasn't important enough information to pass on to the little guys, you know?
3 extra seconds of talking, they don't want to tell you about things. So
yeah,
and it's a full circle moment because the last 2 months, a month and a half now, soldiers have been getting told the same thing.
Yep.
Just wear your uniform at work. ROTC, JROTC, so students here in town were told not to wear their JROTC uniforms because of the fear of reciprocity from whatever sleeper cell, whatever fear monger you want to do. But it's for the safety of them, OPSEC and things like that. And this is a military community I'm in, and they were told not to wear it, and soldiers being told not to wear the uniforms. So it's a full circle. It's 24 or 5 years later now. The same messages coming out, and that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. That is kind of weird, but it's also too, when we look back at it, you know, it makes sense what they're telling them to do, and it makes sense not to do that. However, they've seen me go to work every day in my uniform for the last however many years. Yeah. Just because I didn't wear it today,
he must be like,
he must have been done. He ain't doing that no more. You know, like they go through those things, and it's like, just remember, people may not have paid attention to you that much when you were getting in the car before, but now that this has happened, there's a heightened awareness, right? Again, that 3 more seconds of conversation to say, well, they're probably really paying attention now because this is happening. And so people understanding that sometimes helps to drive that message, right? But yeah, that's a fair point. A lot of people are being told not to do it, you know? That's crazy.
got from the unsung veteran. He said, for Marines, we were never allowed to wear our uniforms off base. That they told us why, but it was also because Marines are hard-headed. That's true statement.
No, I remember too, like, again, being in the Seabees, we were like an extension of the Marines, kind of. Marines with light duty chits, right? So we weren't allowed to wear our uniforms off base either. So we were always like, okay, but like, we don't have a locker room to change into. We drive into work every day. Like, if, every day we drive in and we go to work, what if I have to get gas on the way home? They're like, well, you better go home and change and then get gas. You're like, yeah, but it's like on the way home. And you used to try to find those little things to be like, oh, I could get it in. We'll be all right. And then you would always be driving down the street, right? And then you pass the guy, you're like, this motherfucker right here is wearing his uniform, right? Trying to figure out who it is. Do I know who they are, right? But,
I'm going to tell them. I'm going to get them.
And it's always like your NCO is the one that's doing it, right? Like, oh, I just had to stop real quick. The rules don't apply to me. You need to do that. You're like, what? Come on, dude. I was just again. And so going through that and seeing in the Seabees being like the Marine Corps, when instances like that happen and that NCO is getting handled because they didn't do it the right way, because you need to be the example. Again, it's just like I talked about earlier. It's that whole, you are the example. If you expect people to do what you ask them to do, you better be ready to perform and show the model of how that should be done. Otherwise, don't even say it, right? Don't hold people to the standard you're not willing to hold yourself to. So
definitely. We got two questions from the audience in here. One I knew would come in about transitioning since you did 22 years.
Yeah.
This is from Gamora and Salmon. What was the most difficult part about transitioning out of the military after 22 years? Thanks for that question, Gamora.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So, I would have thought getting out of the military would have been easier, right? I was a recruiter. I worked in the community. I never really was in a recruiting tour where I was around a base. So I never had like a MTF that I went to for medical. I was always outside of that, but I still had the same issues transitioning that a lot of guys have. You do 22 years in the military, no matter what job you do, no matter what MOS you're in, it really doesn't matter. When you ascend the ladder after 22 years, I was a senior chief. I was in the chief's mess. I had sailors that I led every day. You had people that came in the door that, they relied on you for answers. They relied on you for guidance. They relied on you to get them out of predicaments that they were stuck on what to do, career advice, writing their evals, helping them get promoted. We were checking on their families. You're doing all of this for so long, and then you get out and it's gone. You wake up, walk down the hall, and you're just kind of told, nobody gives a shit what you just said, right? Because you're at home and you don't have those people that you're leading, and there's nobody looking to you to get that advice. And then the other piece is, going through that TAPS process on top of losing all the leadership opportunities you had on a daily basis, the ability to impact lives daily because they were just there in that arena. Now you have to go find a job again.
Yep.
And after you've not worked for 22 years to go find a job again, holy shit. You would have thought that'd be easy for us, right? I'm a recruiter. I help people get jobs every day, but it is way different, dude. Like, my evaluations are not good resume bullets, by the way. Nobody cares that, you've saved this much time and increased production by this much, and all these buzzwords you put in your evaluations to get points or to show that you're doing your job well and being ranked and all those things, saying I was number one of all that. And they're like, so you're like, oh wait, that doesn't matter. And what they care is the skill set. So coming out and understanding that I probably should have prepared to get out, which I didn't, it was the biggest hurdle, right? You fall into that depression. You fall into that. One of my things was, did I just waste 22 years of my life? Like, I just wasted all this time doing this thing that I'm super proud of. And I still am today. And I will never not be proud of it. But did I waste all that time? Should I've only done the 5 years like I said I was going to do when I joined? And then that way I could have got a job when I was younger and I would be better off on it now. And now that I've made it past all of that and realized that in a way I was just sulking for no reason. I was trying to, play a victim to something that it's shut up and just, put your head down and go do it like they taught you to in the military. But at the time, it was just hard. You know, you're putting these applications in, you're not getting jobs. And then, like I said, nobody's calling you to ask for advice or what should we do next. And then when you do reach out to those guys that you were in with, they're too busy for you because they're out there on the deck place doing shit, right? They're still have the mission to attain. So they don't have time to talk to you or BS like they did before, even though we were just going to bullshit, but we were both bullshitting on the company dollar. You know what I mean? Well, now I'm not in anymore. So the company dollar doesn't apply to me. It only applies to you. And so now there's no reason for that. And then, you know, you're almost forgotten. You're not forgotten, but you are. And those are the hardest parts of transitioning because we just weren't prepared to get out. You know, I was prepared to do everything that the military asked me to do, but the one thing they don't do is prepare you to get out. And so, like everybody, you just start to feel like, again, did I just waste all this time doing this thing for the country? Did they not realize that my shit says I'm a veteran? They should give me an interview, you know? And that's not what matters. That's not what matters. What matters is the skill set that you have. Do you match what they're looking to do? And we all have that. We just have to learn how to put that on paper, right? And then you have to really figure out what you want to be when you grow up. You know, we should have had a better conversation on what that looks like. You know what I mean? All those things that you should do to prepare. You don't. I look at it sometimes, Rich, and I'm like, man, I think they should let the spouses help prepare for getting out, right? And the reason I say that is they're the ones at home while we're on deployment. They're paying all the bills. They're taking the kids to the doctor. They're doing everything. All we're doing is hanging the fuck out. It sucks. We went to bad places and did that, but we still only had one thing to do, and it was what was right in front of us. We weren't the ones back here that had to handle 500 things. So I think if they had a soldier for life or a transition GPS class for the spouses to go to when their members are getting out, I think you would see a lot more guys be successful and girls be successful in that transition, because you would have the anchor of that team, the one that's looking at all the stuff that's important, because they tell us all the resources. We're like, yeah, whatever, somebody will just give it to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas your spouse is going to go call those numbers and do those things and ask those questions. And so I feel like there should be some form of like a family TGPS class that you attend with your spouse. They tell you about how this works. This is how you got to do. Like, you would have more of us would have our VA benefits when we get out if our spouse went to that class with us. You know what I mean?
They'd ask the questions.
And they would also help us transition a little bit better, I think, as well, because they would see all the other guys in there and all the stuff that they're saying and the language they're talking. I think they would get through it. But my biggest thing in transition was just I wasn't getting a job right away. I feel like I'm the most marketable guy in the world. I was a senior chief, for crying out loud. Nobody cares when you get out. That was the hardest piece.
At that point, you're just Matt to them and a number.
Exactly.
And back on the spouses, not only do they take care of everything while we're gone, every time we PCS, they transition. They have to transition every time. So if they had a career someplace, they have to transition to the next place. They have to transition to the next place, which is one of the guests you're going to have soon. I had Lisa Bradley from our Riveter, which her brand tries to eliminate that transition for them, so they always have that job. But for every one that does that, there's 20 to 30 that doesn't, and it's very hard for them to go through. And they learn those lessons that we learn as we run into that wall when we take off them boots that last time. And like me, I said, didn't know what to do with my hands when I got out.
I was always in the interview.
Yeah.
And then the other piece too, right? Like, we're taught a certain language that was another piece that is really hard to get away from, right? I'm going to a job interview. They're asking me, tell me about a time where you had to work with a difficult coworker. Well, I'm about to senior chief the shit out of this thing. You know, like, what is your major malfunction? Why are you doing that? This is the standard that you have to follow. This is what needs to be done. I don't understand why you can't get it. This has been written down. We need to figure this out right now. Like, we could directly handle that problem. Then you realize really quick, first I got to talk to you, and then I have to give you a warning. I got to give you a written warning. And then we got to sit down with HR and give another warning. And then there's like a process to doing that, right? So the manager on the outside is not able to handle things all the time at the lowest level, right? Because if that manager does handle it at the lowest level, there's a consequence to that. So learning that is the big step, that you don't have the authority to make those decisions, right? You're not the HR person. And then just the language of like, I'm gonna tell you all my cool ass stories because that's what everybody else thought was cool, and that's how I got promoted, and that's what made me number one, and that's what made me likable. And when you're telling these stories to those HR reps or the interviewers and managers in the outside, if they weren't in the military, they're just looking at you like, yeah, this is not gonna work. Like you won't fit here, and it's like, but I don't understand why not. They're like, well, you don't care about anything that our paper says that we do. But the reality is we do care. We just need to learn how to communicate that better, right? We have the same value system that any company has in the civilian world. We can do anything in any company. You just put us in there, tell us what we need to do, and we'll go make it happen. But what we need from them is what is our rules of engagement? What are my left and right boundaries? And who, what is my chain of command on this thing? How do I attack it? And then we can go do it. What I found is in the civilian world, they do a good job of communicating that. It's just understood that that's how it works. And you're like, you can't, that's why all these people get fired, because they don't know, right? Like they don't know, like you got to tell them. They think everybody reads the handbook.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody reading the handbook. Do you ever read all of the shit in the car contract that you signed to buy your car? Probably not. You know what I mean? So
yeah. There would be no sale if you read everything in there. And if your eyes can see all those little words, there's no way.
Yeah.
Everything. And that's usually for a reason, because they just want to rush you in and out and make you make those crazy decisions and do that. And I remember all the interviews I went on, when they'd ask that question, I'd go through that same checklist in my head. What do they want me to say? What should I say? What would I really say? Let's do a combination and just watch the reaction. Oh, that didn't work.
I am so, people like me. I stand in the room. I can talk to everybody. I'm likable. I gave presentations at the highest levels of leadership. I made shit happen. Watch this. Then you go home and you tell your wife, yeah, it didn't go good.
Yeah,
she's like, what do you mean? It was a recruiting job. I'm like, it just didn't
go work out. You feel like Kevin Hart in Night School when he was taking all the tests at the end there. Yep, I didn't pass that one. I'm gonna try again. Every time I gotta try again. I'll do it again.
Yeah.
You had to
for sure, and that's what it is. But also remembering when you do that transition is that you might be starting over. But remember, just like when you were in, it's just another challenge that you have to get through. So as hard as it is to tell people, you have to be patient. And it sucks to say that.
Yep.
But you just do. But also keep in mind, like what era, I guess you would say, of your life you're in. Did you only do 4 years?
Yeah.
If you only did 4 years, you're not that far removed from what it was like to get a job in the civilian war before. So you'd probably fare a little bit better than a guy like me that did 22 and a half. And I've gone through 3 different job generations. And I was like, I'm just going to go put applications in. They're like, no, you got to apply online. I was like, what the fuck? Apply online? Oh, shit. Right? Like, now I got to apply online. And remember, I'm a recruiter, so we're taught to talk to people and we network in classroom presentations. Now I've got to apply to a job online, hope somebody likes what it says there, with an opportunity to talk to someone on the phone. Where my skill set comes in is I want to sit in front of you and talk to you. I want you to be able to read what I'm saying, look at my body language, look at my posture, understand that I'm giving good, thoughtful answers. You can't do that over a telephone. You know what I mean? It was just a different dynamic, man, where you didn't like, I can't just go ask the manager if they're hiring. No, that's not how it works anymore. And I was like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not going to go good.
Ty jumped on and said, you're a force of nature.
That's my dude right there.
Right there. He was the first one from your show to be on my show. So you're number 2. The next one will be the rough one. That one I have.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
man.
I got another question. This one's about you got your 6 culture here. This was from the F You Did. How did the idea for Got Your 6 culture come about? Thank you for that question, the F You Did.
Yeah. So like I said, you get out of the military and again, we had mission driven, things we did every day, and we had people that we helped every day. So my wife, me, my wife and my son were watching TV one night, and I think it was a chick flick because my son and I fell asleep, if I'm being honest. And she was just thinking that night, you know, she's very creative in her own right in what she does. I mean, for crying out loud, she painted the picture that's behind me. She's an amazing artist, but she's creative in what she does. And so she drew our original logo on a piece of paper. The next day she came up to my son and I, and she was just kind of like, would you guys wear that on a t-shirt? I immediately was like, fuck yeah, I would. And my son was like, yeah, that's awesome. And so then as my wife and I sat down to talk more about like what it would be, right? So my wife was like, even in all of my time in service, being a part of the Chiefs Mess, being in the military, and it's ingrained in us, right? We're there to protect our country, keep people free, but we also give back a lot. Right. You are really encouraged to help your community. So we would go Ronald McDonald House. We would volunteer at pet shelters. My daughter volunteered at like mental health clinics, and you know, we would volunteer everywhere we could to try to help give back in the communities that we were at. If there was like a clothes drive or anything, like we wanted to help there. And so my wife was like, well, you're not doing that anymore, but why can't you? Right. So that was the first part. Why can't you do that? Her biggest thing on why we did Got Your Six is like the what do you call it? Like the ground zero of this thing is when I was in the military, just like you, Red, we would walk around in our uniform and we would go into a restaurant or we'd go to a store or something, right? You'd walk in there. Number one, in our generation, everybody is thanking me for my service, right? Number two, everybody's trying to buy your shit, right? Like, let me get it for you. Let me get it for you. And I think there's only been one person that I adamantly did not argue with on this, and it's because he was a priest, and I was like, I kind of need Jesus on my side, so I'm not going to argue with him. But we used to tell people all the time, I really appreciate it, but I honestly like we're, you know, we got it, we're good. And people would still do it. People would pay, and we wouldn't even know all the time when we were in service because we were wearing that uniform, right? Well, she was like, her family has a history of law enforcement and first responders, like firefighters and stuff, right? She's like, but how often do you see people walking down the street, even today, especially today, and walking up to a police officer and shake their hand and say, thank you for what you do. Thanking a firefighter. If you know an EMT, like telling them like, man, I appreciate everything you do, and I couldn't imagine what you see every day. Right. She's like, we should take this thing a step further and we should include everybody. Right. So our whole idea behind the Got Your Six thing turned into one of our taglines in our company, and our website is at sameflagsameoath.com. And we trademarked that same flag, same oath, because to us, whether you're a first responder being a dispatcher, you're an EMT, you're a law enforcement officer, you're a corrections officer, you're a firefighter. It doesn't matter what you do in that first responder space, nurses, doctors, the whole nine, right? And military members, we all take an oath to something, country, community, you're trying to protect something. So the part of the reason we came about this is we wanted to make shirts that were designed for first responders and veterans. We have some on our website that we have that are up there that you can look at, that you can get, that are just different designs that for us, it speaks to that community. But then the other thing that we kind of fell into is talking to nonprofits, veteran nonprofits, first responder nonprofits. And what we realize is, and we're not talking like your Wounded Warrior projects. We're not talking the ones that use DAV, like these ones that you see that are prevalent, that are already huge and they have a massive donor foundation already. We're talking grassroots ones, you know, the ones that you've met out at your local farmers market that are just trying to get the information out about who they help. You know, they're very local, they're very grassroots, they're very small, they're trying to build. Those are the people that we've met and we've kind of established a relationship with, to where we can do what we call our alliance drops on our website, which are co-branded shirts, where we've put our logo with a design or the logo of the nonprofit. And so our whole idea behind that became, we'll offer a shirt for the nonprofit that gives them a couple of different avenues. We explain to the nonprofit how we can help them in that manner, whether it's they get the profit from what they're doing, or they build a bank account for us to get them a bulk of shirts. If they're going to an event, when they're doing a fundraiser, we creatively figure out how we can give back to them on the designs that we're making. And all it takes is for that nonprofit to go out and start advertising their stuff and get people to sell it. We host it on the website. We make all of the products and we ship them out. We handle the customer service after. We handle all of that. The whole thing they need to do is just talk about their organization and get it out there. And so we've met a lot of organizations, but we only have a few that we've put on the website for good reason, right? We want to make sure that we know what they're doing and why they're doing it, and what's the mission behind it, right? It would be easy to say we would do it for everyone, but we already know that not everybody is built the same in some areas. And so what we do is just, we're referred to people all the time. We meet people all the time and just have conversations, man. And we give that. And then now I figured out I'm way better at helping businesses look good than selling a ton of t-shirts. So we do a lot of custom screen printing for businesses right now. And one of our big drivers in our business, keeping with that first responder and veteran mantra, is if you're a veteran or first responder company and you come to us and you want to make a shirt, design, whatever, hat, it doesn't matter. I will never charge you an artwork fee. And that can be $150 to $300 depending on the amount of time that somebody puts into that design and draws it. And we're not going to give first responders and veterans an iteration limit. Like, you can only look at this 3 times and then you have to decide. Like, for real? 3 times? Like, I want it to be perfect for what I'm doing, right? So we try to make it seamless for our brothers and sisters and country and community out there, and give them an affordable way to showcase what they're doing, whether it's their family reunion, or they work in a company now, or they're in a veteran organization, or they run a nonprofit. Whatever it is that they're trying to do, we're trying to help them. So our Got Your Six brand has just grown into just trying to help as many people there as we can, right? Through whatever we can do, whatever means we can do that. Our means to help people is to help post shirts on a website and sell it for these organizations so they can make money, or they can, create like a bank account to buy what they need in bulk, so that they don't carry inventory. There's nothing worse than if you're the main person for the charity and like your freaking dining room is nothing but t-shirt boxes, right? They don't sell and they don't go anywhere. So we have the ability to print on demand with that. You order it, we make it, we send it. That way they're not having to do that. And it allows them to focus more on the outreach for the organization, meeting donors that are willing to give money versus time like we do. Like, we're freeing them up to do a lot of things versus what you would normally do in these nonprofits. And like I said, we look for the grassroots ones, the small ones, the ones that are trying to get off the ground. If you got a lot of money already, we're not the ones to help you, because you don't need the help. You really don't. But if you are trying to build something and you've been around for 2 or 3 years and it's going, but you need to take that next jump, a lot of times finding people to take small things off your plate help you in that next level of growth, right? So that's what we try to do.
That's outstanding. I was looking at your website while you're doing it. We'll pop it up here after these last couple of comments and questions. But what you guys do there, and your shirts look amazing, by the way. You guys are doing great things. Those grassroots nonprofits like you're talking about, I met a lot of them at that Combined Arms Center down there in Houston. There was always 1 or 2 in there that were just up and coming. Then, of course, there was the big ones that were in there, like Travis Banyan Foundation, Team Rubicon, and Mission Continues. But then there was always a local guy or gal that was in there starting. And you can see them just sweating it out and just trying to learn from the big guys, but no one was really helping them. No one was, hey, this is our secrets. This is how we do it. There wasn't a mat there where they got your 6 culture to help them. At that point, those guys probably quit or had to combine to make something work. As you start this out, how many guys or teams of organizations have you seen grow thanks to you, and how many wouldn't come to you or didn't accept your olive branch to help and just fell by the wayside?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily know if there's anybody that fell off because of us, because they wouldn't take our help. But we have reached out to ask people if they wanted help. And there's been times, even in regular business, we'll tell somebody what we can do for them and give them pricing. And I've lost work because I don't charge enough. I know that's crazy, but it is what it is. I guess they don't think I have this big warehouse or whatever, but that happens. And then the other piece is, I mean, there's one nonprofit here that from the beginning of us doing this till now that we've worked with like no other, and we talk about them on our podcast a lot, and it's the Project Zero Alliance. Like they're an adventure therapy nonprofit here in the Houston area. They do land-based shark fishing, and they do adventure therapy. So they go overlanding in Jeeps, and they run trails, and they'll do camping, and like I said, they do overland shark fishing, and they're just trying to get veterans. Like their thing is get out there, right? Just get out there, get into the outdoors, go do something, be around people, and do that piece. And, you know, from the time we met those guys, we do golf tournaments. We did golf tournaments for them for a couple of years. Now they've run it, but we help them with it. We do a lot of their apparel, like, and we just have stuff on the website. A lot of their inventory that sits for a long time, we have it hosted up so that people can buy it and send it out. And for those guys and us, it's just been a true partnership. You know, that's what we dream of it being. But then there's a lot of other nonprofits we worked with that we've started to do things with, and we give them the same layout that we give everybody else. And their stuff doesn't really move or go anywhere like someone like Project Zero's does, right? And the reason for that is I think that they figure because we're going to come out and be generous and put a shirt on a website and sell it for you and put it on there, that it's just going to move like that, right? Well, I try to tell them, like, you still have to market your nonprofit, right? Like, I'm not in the business of marketing for you. You don't pay me to market for you, but I'm going to put this shirt up. We're going to hold the inventory. We're going to make it for you. We want to give back to you, right? We're going to make a little bit, and you guys are going to make a little bit, and it's going to help you go forward. It's going to put your logo and your branding on people to wear around, and it creates conversation. I think the reason a lot of those ones don't move forward is the idea of what we're trying to do is great, but they forget about that piece, right? Where it's like, I need to advertise this also to get people to buy it. And so that's the part that I see more than anything. It's not that a place like Project Zero didn't take off because of what we do, but we help them. You know, I think that's the biggest key for us, is that's our ability to give that service after service, right? We now have that mission that you can run towards and help people and give back and help them move forward. The thing for the other guys is forgetting about that piece, right? Like, it's on the website. You've been given the QR code. You have all the stuff to do it. But if you don't advertise it and it doesn't sell and they don't see a ton of sales, it can get discouraging, right? And then the other part is, if you need to go to an event, I'm not just going to give you a whole bunch of shirts to go sell and make money. Like, those still have to be bought, right? So helping the nonprofits sometimes understand that whatever's hosted on the website, there's a cost to make that. Then there's basically, we're going to share the profits of that with you. So we still have to pay to make it, but we're going to share what would be a profit 100% to us. We're going to give some of that to you, right? And so helping them understand those things and how it works. But yeah, I think that we're just helping people get their brand out there and let people know who they are. And again, it's not easy. If I was discouraged because shirts weren't flying off the shelves, I still wouldn't have a website today, right? It just wouldn't be there. You have to know that things like these are going to be hard. And that's the other piece for a lot of these grassroots nonprofits. I feel like a lot of them, they filter out because their idea of what they want to do is amazing. Like, it is going to help a lot of people, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. Like to the point that you may have to make a decision on whether you're going to do only that or you're going to continue to do what you're doing. Maybe that's paying your bills too. You know what I mean? Because nonprofit is just that. There is no profit in that thing, right? Like, it's truly there to help people, and you rely on the generosity of others to help your organization thrive. And so that's the piece that we like to come into, is to help with the branding part of that, whether it's making hats, making t-shirts, making a leather journal that they can give people to journal in so that they can put their thoughts on paper, whatever it is that they can just sell and make a little bit off of. It takes away that work. They don't have to host a website where they have their e-commerce. They're not paying those fees. You know, again, all those things that cost to run that piece of an e-commerce, we take care of that, and they don't have to do that because we already have the infrastructure to do that, right? Logistically, supply-wise, that's what we take care of.
that's outstanding. And hopefully everyone that's listening heard that and heard the passion in Matt's voice when he talked about that, giving back to the community and giving back to those nonprofits and helping them help themselves, really help themselves to focus on the nonprofit instead of focus on merch. And like you said, having a whole house full of merch isn't a fun time.
Oh man.
Not at all.
I've talked to quite a few, like just regular customers. We have a lot of customers in law enforcement, firefighter, and veteran nonprofit. And there's a couple of them that are like, can you come get my boxes and like hold on to it and ship it out when someone buys it? Because my wife would like love me if I got it out of here, because they walk in and they just see it all the time. And again, you're going to do something that's great, right? You want to help all these people, but then it just starts to take your house over. You know what I mean? Like it's just all in there. And every time we walk around, the only thing we see is this, you know? So
Willis is jumping in there. So, hey, brother Willis.
yeah.
He just got done with his show.
Yeah.
Deeds was back tonight. Great to see him back in the seat.
Oh yeah.
Shout out for being sick. Good to have him back. And
Hell
we
yeah,
were talking
man.
about the transition. Unsung veteran jumped in. In the military, you have to work with everyone you have. There's no replacements in the civilian world. They don't have to work for you or vice versa. People have choices. And then he said you can do both. He has been teaching his son to apply online and follow up by going in and introducing himself, let them know he applied. And I think that's a lost art with a lot of that generation, the going in and saying, hey, instead of looking down at their phone and doing stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, if I was looking when I was first out, I was able to do a little bit of that. But nowadays, if you're in talent acquisition, a lot of times it's a hybrid role nowadays, meaning you're going to do majority of it in your home.
Yep.
So sometimes those people don't have, an office. And even if you go to their LinkedIn page, a lot of people don't put their work email on that LinkedIn, right? If they're the hiring manager, they don't want you to know it's there. Right. So if you can find it and you're telling your son, go see these people, if they're on there, then those are the people that are going to appreciate the fact that you came in there more, and you're gonna go a long way. But it's such a different dynamic, and hard to do. And it's true. Civilian world, they would have a really good track record of turnover if they would realize that you're right. You don't have to work with some people, like you have a choice. But remember, the choice you make to get rid of and hire people over and over and over and over and over again, instead of mentorship and development, costs your business more money than you need to be paying, because you're just constantly bringing the wrong fit in there. Either tell your talent acquisition team exactly what you're looking for in a person and create those behavioral style interview questions to give them so that they can kind of give you a feel for that. And then make sure your talent acquisition team understands the skill set that you're looking for, because obviously who you've been hiring isn't there because they haven't hit that yet. You gotta share that with them. Again, that comes into communication as well, right? We're all hybrid and working from a computer. So we do everything via email nowadays. It is very hard for me to portray to you like what I'm looking for in an email. Like again, going back into a business perspective, working with a nonprofit, you can email me what you're looking to do, and that's great. And I love reading it. But we're going to get on the phone, or we're going to get on a Zoom or a Google or some kind of call like that, so we can see each other and talk, because I need to understand what you're looking for. And to your point that you made before, like, what is the passion you have for this thing? What is the vision you have for it? What is the goal for it? Let me share stuff that I can see online to give me a picture of what you're looking for. Like, you have to have that connection. And if you're local, we're going to meet in person. That's the best way to do it, because we're going to work together on this. So I love that he said, like, he's telling his son to go follow up with people in person and talk to them. That just means he's not going to be stuck like a lot of kids that are going, well, I'm good at talking in the headset on a video game or whatever, right? Like, you're able to now talk to people. That's such a huge skill set that is missing from people. We don't do that a lot anymore. There's no foundation of communication personally anymore, right? Like,
exactly.
You know,
lost the art.
The
interwebs or social media really made the
for sure
generation lose that art of actually interpersonal communication, not intercomputer personnel communication.
Yeah, for sure.
interpersonal. So yeah, it's a lost art, and I'd love to see it come back.
Yeah.
This last question came in here. This is from @Tree Delacourt. What advice would you give to veterans who are trying to figure out their next mission after service? That's a great question.
Yeah, that was a very, very good question. Thank you for that one, especially. So, what I would tell veterans that are getting out, like I said, a lot of us struggle with there's no more purpose. You don't have a mission. You don't have people that are relying on you every day. And if you were a senior NCO and you had a troop or you had a platoon or you had a division of young military members that relied on you every day, and like in our mind, we kept it moving, right? But now that you're out, you realize we were just part of the machine that keeps it moving, and we were doing our part as the cog in that wheel. I would tell you, when you get out, find something that you like to do that you can volunteer for to be another cog in a wheel, right? Whether you're anything, like go to a VFW, go to an American Legion, join those places, sit in those meetings, complain just like all those dudes do, because I was taught a bitchin' sailor is a happy sailor. So if that's what you like to do, then go do it on the outside, but do it with people that are just like you. If you are looking for a mission and a purpose to give yourself, what is it that you want to do, right? Do you want to do leadership? Do you want to do hunting? Do you want to do fishing? What is it that you like doing, right? Like Willis just said on there, what are you passionate about? What makes you excited to go do all the time? Find an organization that does that. And if one doesn't exist, figure out how you could start to do stuff like that to help, right? You don't have to immediately start a nonprofit and go do all that crazy stuff, but you could do community or neighborhood meetups and do that kind of stuff. Or you could go to farmers markets and do that. You can go volunteer at the VA to talk to, veterans that are going in there. You could go volunteer at senior citizens' homes for all those the older generation of people that have family, don't give a shit and come see them anymore, that they just want someone to talk to. There's many ways to find your next mission. But first, like Willis, said so greatly, is what is the thing that you're passionate about? And I would tell you, figure out what you are passionate about in service. That often leads you to the right point of where you're going to be after service, because there's always a way to do the same work you did in service out of service, right? Like I said, we volunteered at food banks and homeless shelters, and we would go to, help with like pet rescues, and we go to the Ronald McDonald House. And guess what? You don't have to be just in the military to do that. You can do that out of the military. So just continue doing those things. If that's what you did when you were in and it made you feel good to do it, just start doing that, right? Put yourself into something familiar that you were passionate about and made you feel good in service, and that's going to take you a long way. And then the other piece to that, for every veteran to find your next mission, go find the veteran community around you. They're somewhere. They're hanging out somewhere, whether it's a bar, a church, again, a VFW, an American Legion. Here in Texas where we're at, barbecue competition is a big one, where a lot of vets do barbecue competitions, and that's a good thing to get into because it's a routine. If you just like to ramble like we do, start a podcast. That would be something you can do. Anybody can do that. You just record it and upload it, and who cares if people listen to it? But if it makes you feel good, do it. Like, figure out where your community of veterans is around you and go out there and walk in the door just like you did in every unit you ever served in. And you're going to find you're right back in that room again. You know what I mean? Like, you're right back with those people. You're still telling the same old worn out freaking stories, and they all have the same worn out stories too. And you immediately feel like you're back where you were, just not in the uniform 9 to 5 every day. You know what I mean? But you're still in that atmosphere. And a lot of times that's going to help you, because being around those people, it's what they say. In order for you to succeed, you want to be around like-minded people, right? Don't go around the people that are going to drag you down. Go around the people that are going to help you move forward. And you always did that in the military. You found the squared away soldier, or the shit hot sailor, the guy that was always getting the awards, the person that was always number one in things. That's who. What do you do and how do you do it? I need to be just like you. And that's what you chase. You do the same thing out here. Go find those shit hot veterans that are volunteering in the community and doing big things, and just ask them if you can jump on the bandwagon, and they'll let you 100%.
Oh yeah. A great answer. And I'm going to share your website now so people can see it on here. Hopefully. There it is. Whee!
Boom.
There it is. Is this the best place for people to contact you, is through the website?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go up to the top there, I think there is all the way on the right-hand side, there's a link up there that there's a contact us on there. And there's also a custom order page on there. If you go where it says, there's probably a custom order one. Yeah, right there, that custom gear done right. If you go down in there, if you hit that first key one right there, it'll take you to a contact form where you can ask us questions. And down at the bottom, there's another contact form that you can reach out to us. Any question you have, it doesn't matter. If you're in Houston and want to know where you can volunteer, we'll help you do that too. You don't just have to call us to buy t-shirts. You can call us if you need somebody to talk to. At the end of the day, what we want you to do is reach out. But yeah, the website is a great place to come and see what we have going on and what we offer. And then here soon we'll have an event page up there for a lot of the events we're going to. And if you notice on the bottom of our website down there, Rich, when you're down there, we have a logo in Houston anyway. We have a Houston Veteran Chamber of Commerce. So that Chamber of Commerce is all veteran-owned businesses. There might be one in your area. If there's not, it might be something that you can set up to start doing. And now you're putting like-minded people in the room together that all served and they all do business, and we're all going to help each other out at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, just reaching out there is a good place to get in contact with us for what we're doing.
And here's Project Zero you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Not all wounds are visible. Canine unit for, is that a community?
Yeah, that's a school district.
Yeah, ISD. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. A lot of alliances there. So yeah, check out Same Flag, sameoath.com. Get in there, ask those questions, ask those hard questions that you maybe don't want to ask right now, but you want to ask later. Talk to Matt. Talk to his better half, because she'll probably answer as well.
Yeah. Well, she'll answer on her website nowadays. She's building her thing too, on top of all of the, on top of the t-shirt company and just helping in the veteran part. We're on the art journey now, as you can see behind me. Becky's an amazing artist, like a legit artist, so it's like helping her build that from the ground up. She started painting about a year ago, and now she's got a portfolio and she's got her website. So if you go to her website, she'll answer, BeckyJoeArt.com. So where you can see all the stuff there, and you can, and for both, we're on Instagram and TikTok, Facebook, like all those. If you follow on those, you'll see us as well. And we'll always answer on those too.
Outstanding. And Willis has helped me out by typing in all this stuff for me. So there it is.
Yep.
Thank you, Brother Willis, for being my typist right now.
Heck yeah.
And before I let you go, Matt, the last question I always ask all my guests: what's 3 things the Misfit Nation can start doing tomorrow to be better people?
The Misfit Nation can do tomorrow to start being better people. I think one we've talked about a lot today in a roundabout way, and that's start talking more to people, right? Don't just read on your phone. Don't just look at a TV. Don't form your opinion on what you're hearing people say. Actually go sit in front of people and talk to them and get to know who they are and what they think. So that way you can at least understand directly from people what they believe and how they feel and how things are going on. And you'll find more than not, you'll probably have the same viewpoint as a lot of people, and it'll help you to understand more about what differences of opinions look like. And it doesn't have to be an argument, and you don't have to attack people. So I think one thing to do is to just go out and actually talk to real people, get in front of people and network and do that. The other thing, 2 more that we could do. A second one that you could do to be better people tomorrow is just, be there for your friends and family, right? If they need you, remember that they're the most important people in your life, and that's the legacy that goes on. So make sure that you're always there for them. And then a third, I tend to keep things very, very simple. I would say a third thing, if you really want to be a better person tomorrow, is go back and look at the last couple years, maybe that person that you used to be really good friends with, or the person that you may have not seen eye to eye with over the last few years, which has been a early problem in our country. And one of those people that you used to think was one of your really good friends and a friend that you could always rely on, and maybe try to reach out to them and say hello again, and have that same conversation I'm telling you, have a stranger with somebody that was important in your life. Because the only thing that you can't get back in life is time. And the last thing you want is to regret, losing a friend over something silly and not trying to talk to them at the end. So
outstanding. That's awesome. Matt, thank you for spending the last hour and 45 with me.
Yeah.
It's a great conversation. It was just flowing so well. I didn't want to cut it off early, but I know both of us have to wake up and do things tomorrow too. So it's good for us old guys to get the body back into a position where we can get up in the morning.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
But brother, thank you for hanging out tonight, and thank you, MisFitNation, for throwing in these questions. Great usernames again tonight as usual. Willis, thanks for hanging out and helping me with my typing. I think I'll be on your show July 2nd, I believe.
Yeah,
I agreed upon. So that's this time I'll have lights and I won't be in a dark cave talking to you. And
yeah. You won't be in the red light district in Korea. I get it.
That's right.
Well, I want to say, Rich, for the MisFitNation again, I appreciate you having me on. It was an honor to come on and talk again. You, like a couple of other podcasts, are ones that we followed that we really admire and respect for what you guys have built and what you're doing. So to be able to come on and talk with you in your platform, which is different for me from what we normally do, it was cool to be on the other side of it. But to do it on your show was an honor. I really appreciate it, and I love to see what you guys are doing. And if there's ever anything we can do to help you out, just let us know. But really, again, just thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you, brother. MisFitNation, I hope you took notes tonight. It was a great conversation between two old salty guys, two 22-year veterans that we have a lot of old knowledge and a lot of current knowledge. We're both pretty relevant still in the veteran sphere and the community sphere. So if you have any questions, reach out to either one of us. Reach out to anyone on his platform, Ty, Al, or Willis, who you've seen jumping in here. Reach out to any one of us. We'll talk to you. And if you're in that dark space, you can reach out to any one of us. You can call 988. You can call those three names I tell you to put on a little piece of paper in your wallet. Like we were just talking about the friends maybe you haven't talked to. Reach out to them. They want to hear from you. We all want to hear from you, because the day tomorrow is 100% better with you in it than it is without. Until next time, MisFitNation, let's be humble, stay hungry, and just keep hustling.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the MisFitNation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great MisFitNation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
MisFitNation. MisFitNation.